What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan, and this is my stock market update for 623 going into 624. So today was another pretty constructive day. Futures were a little scary last night, but the market gapped up, traded up, and then sold off in the last 2 hours of the day. There's nothing wrong with this chart. We're in an uptrend until we're not, and that is the analysis at hand. That being said, I do think we had a test of resistance today, so I think we're not. I mean, all three things can happen going into tomorrow. We could easily get a big monster update that shoots through the resistance of this channel, and then we see how excited the market can get in the short term. We could easily see ourselves gapping down and selling off and heading towards the 20-day moving average, or just some kind of sideways, not up, not down, a whole lot action would all be perfectly normal. I'm leaning towards weakness. Today felt weak. I was up decent early on, and I wound up closing down slightly on the day. Very close to break even, but it was a down day for me, and it's my first down day in almost 6 or 7 trading days, maybe 8 trading days. I think what demonstrates what I'm talking about a little bit better is FFTY. There's nothing wrong with FFTY, but FFTY is really extended from the short-term moving averages. We got a lot of volume, and it was up as much as 1% and closed flat on the day. It just feels like we're going to kind of come down or hit some kind of balance and let these short-term moving averages pull together on growth stocks. So with that being said, I'm more short-term bearish, still long-term bullish. The market looks great. I think if you're looking a month out, 2 months out, we're higher for sure. I think way more higher probabilities of being higher 2 months from now, 1 month from now, than lower. That being said, 1 week from now, I think the probabilities are getting skewed towards possibly lower a week from now. So it kind of has me caught between time frames, so I don't love a lot of setups today. I really don't plan on. I'll show a few things that I like and that I'm watching, but I don't love a lot of setups right here. I want to see the indexes pull down, and I want to see some of these leading stocks show some form of consolidation before I would start putting more money to work. I think the prudent decision right now is mostly hold / take profits on the way up, because we have a very strong market. So if you've got a good gain, there's nothing wrong with taking money on a good gain. And then playing defense if we do see some weakness in the market, to not let any big winners turn into losers, or not let any small losses turn into big losses. So I think hold / defense is the game plan, not so much so offense at this point. So that being said, I'll show you every trade I'm in, and I'll show you what I did today. So Adobe, I'm still in this, and I'm going to let this thing come down to the 21. So I'm willing to give Adobe a terrible down day. I think Adobe is one of my better stocks, and I want to try to get it for the full move. So I'm willing to take some real weakness in this stock. ALNY, this is another one I have some conviction in. My buy is a little below the 50, so I'm going to let this come into the 50. Now, I would evaporate my 10% gain or so if I let it come down that far, but I didn't buy very big. I bought a small position with the intent to buy more of it if it higher lows. So if this higher lows, I'll buy more. If it just rips down and sells off, I'll get out for a small gain. Amazon, this is one I'm pretty convicted in. I'd be willing to let this come all the way down to the 21. So I'd let this have some serious weakness before I would sell it. BioMarin, I think this is another one that could be a big winner for me, so I'm willing to hold this to the 21. I would start reducing the position below the 21. But if it doesn't get to the 21, I'm holding this. Chegg, I've got some conviction in Chegg. I would probably reduce it tomorrow if it were to break and close decisively below 65. Say it's at 61.50. I'd probably reduce it tomorrow. I wouldn't get out, but I would reduce this position. So far, this is acting normal, but Chegg has been pretty volatile for the most part. And my buy is at, I think, 58 and some change. So I've got some wiggle room, but I don't want to risk Chegg turning into a big loss, because I think Chegg might come down to the 50-day moving average before it finally gets its footing and is able to really do an uptrend. And so if we're trading it around the $60 mark, I'm going to get smaller just in case it has another down day to the 50, because I can always sell it and buy it back. Domino's, this is one I would get out of tomorrow if it doesn't look like it's getting its footing, or if it's looking really weak by the end of the day. I'd probably cut Domino's and just be willing to rebuy it if it gets above the 50 again. This looks like it might shake out below the 50 for a little bit, but we'll see. I did reduce my Domino's position a little bit to free up some cash to make a purchase. So I got this position slightly smaller today, but nothing crazy. I just undid what I bought yesterday for a 2% loss, but I didn't do a big buy in this position. Dexcom, I'm willing to hold this one to the 50. My buy is almost the 50 now, and I think Dexcom, it would be a small loss of the 50, and I think Dexcom is one of the better stocks in the market right now. Bitcoin, this is what I freed up money to. I increased my position in Bitcoin. It's still a very small position, but I increased it by 50%. So I added half as many shares as I had. That's a pretty good looking candle going through the 8-day. I bought a little more Bitcoin. I'm a seller below the 50-day moving average. Somewhere around 10, I'm a seller. GSX, as long as it stays above the 8-day, I'm not going to touch this position. Labu, my buy is below the 50 on Labu, so I don't really see myself. I think I would just eat a big down day right on the chin tomorrow and not even think about it and see how it trades the next day. LVGO is another one I'm pretty convicted with. I'm going to hold this until the 21. Melly, I'm willing to hold this for 2 days of weakness. I wouldn't sell this tomorrow if we were weak. NBIX, this is another one. As long as it stays above 120, I'm not going to touch this position. I would reduce it if it got below 120. Netflix, my buy is below the 50, so I'm willing to let Netflix come back to the 50. ServiceNow, this is one I could see myself reducing maybe tomorrow. Depends on how bad of a day. If tomorrow's a terrible day, I would reduce the size of this one just because I don't have the best buy point on ServiceNow, so it might be about to test the 50 before it finally gets its footing. And this is one I think I could easily reduce my size in and not get in too much of a pickle. Okta, as long as it stays above this 34, which is getting close to my entry now, it'd be a small loss to sell it at 181.50, and that's about where I would sell it. And then PayPal, I'm not selling this tomorrow for a week. I'm willing to hold this through a day of weakness. QRVO, this is one that I'm in, and I did add shares to it early in the day. So I'm down barely on the position. I would sell this below 110 tomorrow. Just get out, take a small loss. Be about a 3% loss, 2% loss, somewhere in there. I would just get out and cut it because I am down on this position. So if tomorrow's weak, I'll just go ahead and just cut this loss real quick. I'm willing to hold Regeneron for some pain. My buy is below the 50, so I would take a bad day tomorrow right on the chin. Shopify, I'm willing to hold that to the 21 right now. I think Shopify could be a big winner for this market. I know it's ran up a lot already, but winning stocks tend to keep going higher, and so I'm willing to see if this thing higher lows again. Atlassian, I would cut this one below 175 tomorrow. I'm break even on the position, so this is one I'm willing to sell tomorrow if it's weak again, just to reduce my exposure and get some of my margin down if we start hitting some weakness. Teradyne, as long as it stays above the 21, I'm not selling this one. My buy, I started a position at the close on that day right there, so I'm willing to really let this wiggle a little bit since my buy is pretty safe at this point. And then Tandem, I'm below the 50 now, so I'm willing to let this pull into the 50. And then Twilio, I'm right at the 21, so I'm willing to let this come into the 21 and see what happens. Vertex, I'm below the 50, so I'm willing to let this come into the 50, see what happens. And then Wingstop, I would go ahead and hold this to the 50. That would be a loss for me, but I really like the strength Wingstop has had in the short term, and I think Wingstop could run a little more if the market holds up. And then Zscaler, as long as it's above 100, I'm not going to touch this position. I would take a small loss at $100. And that's all that I'm in. I went through all my positions. So you saw there's about 4 or 5 of those that I'm willing to cut tomorrow if there's an issue and tomorrow's just an absolute garbage day. I would cut 4 or 5 of those just to start taking some action. But for the most part, I'm going to eat it right on the chin. I really just I don't want to get out of these stocks because I think we're at the beginning of a bull market. Now, all those stocks, obviously, I've got lines in the sand that would kick me to cash, but it's almost impossible that we'd hit those lines in the sand tomorrow. Maybe later in the week, I'm getting a lot closer to cash if we have a bunch of weakness in a row. But I don't think every one of those stocks is going to fail. I think maybe half of them might fail and end up kicking me out. But I think several of those are going to be leaders that actually higher low. I stay at a profit in them, and then they're able to get their footing again and make a new high. So I'm trying to not let go of the ones that are going to higher low because the game I play is I just keep averaging up into my winning stocks. So the reason why I'm willing to take such a down day on the chin is I want to see which one of my stocks are able to higher low. And whichever ones are higher low, I'll sell the ones that aren't higher lowing, and I'm going to make those positions bigger when they start higher lowing. That's how I trade. That's what I've always done. That's what I do. So that's my game plan going into, the next week, week and a half. Tomorrow, I don't really see myself playing any offense at all, really. Only defense is on the table, holding/defense. There's a few trades I kind of like, so I guess I'll show what I kind of like, but I'm hesitant to show a lot of these just because I don't think we're at a good buying spot on the indexes. But that being said, I kind of like MasterCard. I kind of like Visa. I'm still watching this LMNX. It's trying to get above the T line. If this can start making the right side of a cup, I kind of like it as a cute way to start a position. Zen's worth watching. AMD's worth watching. It's still able to hold this 50 zone. If it's able to look like it's going to break out, that could be a buy. I still like stamps.com. It's catching support at the 50. If it can stay above the 50, this is probably going to make a cup. Those are the ones I guess I kind of like going into tomorrow. I like DK and G. It's too early, but I think it's setting up some form of a base that will be buyable eventually. So I'm watching DK and G, but I don't like it in the next 2 or 3 days probably. Watching Teladoc. I didn't buy this trigger candle. I wish I would have now in hindsight, but if Teladoc makes another trigger candle, I'll probably buy it and see what happens with Teladoc. I think this could be a big winner this year and continue to run. I like LGIH. That's a home builder. It's hard to see here. I can zoom out. It's making a deep cup with a handle. I can see this one working. It's got great earnings, and that's kind of a trigger type candle today. Not perfect, but I could see more upside here. So that's some things I'm thinking about. But like I said, just to reiterate, I'm leaning more towards holding and playing defense tomorrow and going into the rest of the week until I see the market get support and look like it's going to go higher. Then I could see myself playing some offense. But at this point, it just feels more probable to pull back than to go higher to me. But not enough to where I would sell anything, just enough to where I'm going to hold and see how bad the action is because I've got the cushion to do that. So we'll see what comes. As always, think for yourself. I put these videos out there because I put out a video that I would have liked to have bumped into when I first started trading that might have helped me with my learning curve. So I like to put out there just showing my thought process, showing what I'm in, showing the actions I took, and why I took them, and then what I'm thinking about doing based on what if the market does this, then I'll do that. If it does this, then I'll do that. Seeing that kind of stuff in real time from somebody that does this for a living, I think can be helpful to some. So this isn't financial advice. Don't do anything because I do it. Always do your own research. And let's crush this market tomorrow, guys. Let's make some money. Good luck.